Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're almost in the middle of the year, 2019. We're May 15th. And guess what, folks? Cannabis prohibition still rages. It's pretty frustrating because I'm looking at a text message telling me something that's missing from an order, and I've got people trying to partner up in businesses all over the place. I've got people talking to me about license this and legal that, and trying to buy and sell and horse trade. And yesterday I had a guy come over, and he has a daughter who has a condition called Rett's syndrome. And I don't know a whole lot about it other than it's a brain situation. And the doctors, okay, these are the doctors that everybody is so committed to. You know, the doctors must tell us what to do. The doctors that peddle the FDA products and that must tell us what's safe and what's not. And this guy tells me that his whole team of doctors told him, well, you know, your daughter's going to pretty much just sit in a corner and not be able to talk. And you got to just kind of get over that. Well, this family, I think the wife was really largely responsible for doing the research, but she found cannabis therapy and found out that certain ratios of oil, CBD, THC, and so forth didn't entirely reverse it, but this daughter is able to walk and talk, and she is more or less functioning as a human being, very unlike what her doctors who peddle all the FDA compliant products said would even be possible. And this guy came over and I gave him some things. And I said, you know, we don't know what's going to work, if anything's going to work, but just try it out. This round's on me. And he says, oh, no, I want to pay for this. I says, well, I'll tell you what, if you insist on paying anything, then you can donate to the Human Solution. And he said, well, what's that? And I said, well, you're in a situation where you need a whole bunch of oil, a bunch of cannabis oil, right? Yeah. Well, why don't you just go to the legal dispensaries? Oh, well, you know how much they charge, and they don't have everything that I need. And he started kind of stammering a little bit. And I says, "You're right." I says, "Well, why don't you take this money that you were going to give me in exchange for some things and donate it to the Human Solution?" And I handed him a brochure. And no, that's not it. It's a full size thing. We got it in the mail.
Red?
It has a red binder. It's got a white top.
What is it?
I'm on the radio. Anyways, he looked at our brochure and he says, "Wow, I'm impressed. I like what you're doing." And I said, all of these laws, California is supposed to be such a progressive state. California, the land of the eternal Democrat and the progressive. We got bullet trains that we spend billions of dollars in tax revenue for that don't even go anywhere. We have additional taxes every week on something because we're so darn progressive. And we passed this Prop 64 legalization bill that so-called legalized cannabis. Well, the truth is it allowed a few people to do a few things. And as I say, week after week, month after month, the people that really need this, they really need it, and they need a lot of it. And most of these people, imagine this, okay, unless you're wealthy, unless you have a multiple income streams that are feeding you money without you having to do anything for it. Imagine one of your children or a loved one, a spouse, or maybe even yourself gets found out that you have a debilitating condition, a life-threatening disease, an ailment, a need for multiple surgeries, whatever it is. What do you think that's going to do to your life? It's going to stop it. It's going to turn your whole life into that. That'll become your life. So your ability to earn money, whether you had it prior to this or not, is going to be limited at least. And imagine if you didn't have, like most people, a huge capacity to make a whole lot of money to begin with. I think if you look at the average income in America, it doesn't allow for there to be a serious injury or ailment in the family without it coming at a huge cost. Yes, that's it. Thank you. And so that is the situation that so many people that find cannabis find, is that they need a lot. They need a lot. They need oil. They need products. They need, you name it. They need cannabis medicine, and they can't afford what they need generally as it is. And if you go to a dispensary and you say, "I'm very sick, can you give me 50, 60 grams of oil a month?" They're going to say, "No, I'm sorry, I can't do that." You can go to Steve D'Angelo up in the Bay Area. He's not going to give you 50, 60 grams a month. You can go to any dispensary in California and ask for something dramatic like that, and you're not going to get it. Why? Well, because the ones that have licenses have to pay all of these fees and fines and taxes, and then they have all these restrictions and requirements, and the people they get it from has to deal with all these fines and fees and taxes and restrictions and requirements, and it costs them so much to even have this stuff available that they can't afford to give it away. Not only that, but guess what? The California law doesn't allow them to. They can't give it away. It's not allowed. Somebody has to pay the taxes on it. That's what that law was all about. It wasn't about making cannabis available to people. It was about collecting taxes. We already had a law that made cannabis available to people. That law is now no longer relevant because we have the tax collecting law. All over the country, we have situations like that. We have people that really actually need lots of cannabis medicine, and we have laws that allow certain people to sell to certain people. And these people that have a situation where they have a loved one, a child, many cases, a family member that has a need that gets a direct giant benefit. So many cases where these benefits are off the charts and the doctors won't acknowledge them. The doctors won't even give them pain meds if they find out that they are using this stuff. And these people have to make a decision. They have to decide, do I help them? It might help them. Or do I break the law and risk losing something or everything in many cases? With I don't know. I think we do it with an apathy. I think those people that are pushing the laws that pass, which are generally the 10th of 1%ers, are the ones that are painting the picture of what it's going to do and saying the right words for the legislators to buy into it. And it all has to do with revenue, all of it. None of it has to do with actually the truth and fulfilling a need that really needs to be fulfilled. None of it has to do with the reality of this, because people frankly still don't buy into it. So that's what this show's about. Ending prohibition, ending it so that those people that need this medicine can get it. We still have people that are locked up in prison, and one of them is going to probably call in very shortly and tell us about what it's like in Terre Haute, Indiana, where he serves a life sentence in federal prison for pot. Well, in Indiana, they have some kind of medical provision, and I think they're working on a recreational provision. We got Michael Thompson in Michigan, who is serving 40 to 60 years, and we're hopefully making some progress because we got some new people in town, and I think the judge died, and the prosecutor's no longer around, and we got an opportunity to come in and ask for to get a motion to revisit his sentencing. And that's actually being done right now. It just got submitted thanks to Dee Dee Kirkwood, friggin' monster hero. But it's taking these kind of actions, not passing another law, to actually get things done around here. Michigan has a law that allows people to put up stores. Meanwhile, it keeps a good man locked up virtually for life, and so many others. And I come to you with a lot of frustration, and hopefully it echoes Facebook page or YouTube channel, and you can get the sense of frustration that causes me to do this show, that causes me to sign on year after year as CEO of this company, an all-volunteer position that has unlimited tangible benefits, meaning I know that we make a difference in a lot of people's lives. But it's frustrating as all hell, because you're also a target. You also get lied to. Just so many things happen that are negative in this so-called movement that, many times I sit there and I scratch my head and I go, I don't know. But then I look around me and I see how few people have actually stayed the course and actually done this and actually been valuable to this movement, really. And I say, man, if I step down, who the hell's going to do this? And it's not a big list. There's people doing things, but who's really focused on ending this, really? This group is, I'll tell you that. We're committed to it. We're going to stay with it till we get it done. And that's the reality. So that's why we're here. We have a great guest today. I've not met her yet, but Amy Wolfenbarger is going to be on. She's actually on the line right now. I'm going to bring her up pretty quick. As you guys know, Craig Cecil will be calling in from federal prison where he's serving a life sentence. And I've got somebody I want to honor today. I got a really amazing gift that was bestowed upon the organization that I just deposited today. And I want to share with you some of the things that we're doing as an organization. The Human Solution is a federally recognized 501c3 civil rights organization dedicated to the idea that no one belongs in jail for a plant, and that civil rights are important and they're worth being stood for, they're worth being fought for, they're worth being advocated for. And as much as we focus a lot of our attention on cannabis related cases, that's not the only element of civil rights that we stand up for. We're for all civil rights, and we have specific provisions in our mission and our organization for Native American rights, disabled rights, and veterans rights as we stand today. So many times that these issues overlap, and there's many times where there's multiple layers of these issues that hit on multiple points. But that's what this organization is about. We're an all-volunteer organization, meaning there is not today nor ever has been one member or leader of this organization has ever taken a dime. Every nickel that's ever been raised has always gone towards the cause of either educating or supporting or both those people that are in need. And that's what we do. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the work we do, because we've, like I said, received a wonderful gift, and I want people to understand what that means and what we intend to do with it. So I'm going to jump right into our guest. I believe we're going to have Pete Yapel come on, and hopefully George Martorano is going to join us, another person who was given a life sentence for pot and made his way out, as happens once in a while. Hopefully more and more it happens. It has been happening more and more. Hopefully Tom Corby will be joining us. And there was a case that went on last week that was looking for some support. We're going to talk about that. What does it mean to get support, to ask for support, about being effective? Why don't we talk about being effective? Because I think that might be important. All right, let's jump into our first guest. Amy Wolfenbarger is a longtime Ohio cannabis reform activist. She's founder of Sensible Norwood and author of Norwood Cannabis Ordinance. After an original ballot placement denial and a challenge before the state Supreme Court, she rewrote the initiative in 2018, acquired ballot placement, and passed her ordinance by 73% of the vote. That's huge. 73% of anything is huge. She also rallied her community and prevented a permanent ban on the cannabis businesses. In addition, she's volunteered on numerous statewide legislation initiatives, regional coordinator for Ohio Rights Group, regional manager for Ohioans to End Prohibition, and Southwest regional coordinator for Ohioans for medical marijuana, and more and more and more. But most importantly, she came to me as a grassroots organizer. Anybody who knows me, that's what we do. We're grassroots all day long. When I was fighting my trial, I rallied people from all over California and out of state that came to Long Beach courthouse, and we had hundreds of us on some days that stood up and ultimately were the difference. And one of the main reasons that today I'm not only free, above ground breathing, and currently out of custody, but also unconvicted. I have no criminal record to speak of as we stand here. So, Amy, welcome to the show. Let's see what's going on. You're live on the air. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I am fantastic. It is absolutely my pleasure. The timing of this was impeccable because Craig Cecil is calling from federal prison right now. So I'm going to put him on, and then I'm going to put you back on hold. And as soon as his 15 minutes are up, I'm going to bring you back on, okay?
This call is being recorded and is subject to monitoring.
All right.
To decline the call or to accept.
Craig Cecil, how are you doing today?
Hello, Joe. It's sunny and warm, about 70 degrees here in Ontario today. This is a great weather day for us, where it's not too hot, not too cold.
Well, it sounds like springtime to me. So, how's the softball team going?
The softball's been fun. We've had some rained out lately, but overall it's been fun. You can't imagine just some of the things that happen out there, with a group of guys that really don't have much in common. you've got the detentions of a bunch of them being in different street gangs and guys that are, a few of them suffering from mental illness. It's just a fun group of people to try to pull into one game. It makes for a lot of laughs.
I sure hope somebody's videotaping this. I'll bet you there's enough material for a pretty good show.
Oh, it definitely would. It definitely would. Really, the best part of the game is the botched plays and the heckling.
Yeah, I would imagine. There's probably quite a bit of both of those.
Oh, there is. It can be a lot of laughs.
So how is the overall demeanor out there? Last week you said things seemed like they were turning a corner.
Well, the staff members are still assaulting inmates, but they changed a little bit. I think it's because they're a bit more brazen. They used to not beat up the inmates until after they were handcuffed. But here recently, they've hit a few of them when they're not handcuffed. And the rumor is, I haven't seen it, but the rumor is, in a couple of them, the inmate hit the officer back and all that, was able to walk away, and they left him alone. So that's at least the gossip. I don't know that it's true or not, but that's the gossip people seem to be accepting. That so therefore, if an officer assaults you, you just need to hit him back.
Wow, that sounds like a simple enough solution, but it doesn't seem like it would make a lot of sense.
No, that's what I mean. But that seems to be the consensus that that the ones that the main ones that are doing the assaulting and all that more than once here, and just since Monday, that inmates have hit them back and basically left, walked away, and they left them. I don't know, but that's the story, and I can't think that would have a good future.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I've got a guest on the line that's an activist out of Ohio, and she's done all kinds of work with the community. She got some legislation that was recently passed, and has done a lot of grassroots work, and that's kind of what we've always been big on is the grassroots work. And we have an active chapter in Ohio as well, which we just began our conversation, so I haven't really had a chance to dig into anything yet. But is there anything you'd like to say to somebody who is an activist who very much wants to end prohibition, not just pass some silly regulatory laws, but to actually make a world where there aren't people locked up for pot anymore? What would you have to say to somebody who's active in the community?
Well, what I like is, as you know, a few people like Terry out in California is putting up signs in the marijuana dispensaries that are like, remember me, people that are, in prison for life for marijuana, and that sign I think has a lot of effect right in the marijuana store.
Yeah, I think that is. I think that we still have so many people that just don't know. They just don't know that there are still people not only that are locked up right now that are serving long sentences, but that are still getting locked up, that there's still cases going on every day.
That's the sad part, because once they put us behind the fence of the razor wire, we're largely forgotten by society. I mean, be honest, I can even attest, and for not only for myself, but for just about everybody, is you get forgotten by most of your friends and even a lot of your family. They just kind of, out of sight, out of mind, they forget about you when you're in prison. And I think those signs in the marijuana stores and those signs elsewhere to say, hey, what about these guys in prison for marijuana that we're, enjoying right here, over the counter at the store? I think that goes a long way for people to say, hey, maybe we got to do something for those people. Maybe the laws need to change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've heard a statistic, and I don't remember exactly how it went, but it had something to do with if you are in prison for 7 years, the odds of your family staying intact meaning spouse, and even children staying with relationships is remarkably low. That families just don't seem to weather this very well as a rule.
No, because if you look at, a lot of the marijuana stuff, like one thing I hear from other marijuana dealers is that they went to that because there's, compared to other drug crimes, that there's no violence, there's no victims, there's no, I mean, it's like a pacifist crime, I guess.
It's pretty mellow as crimes go. I mean, if you have no victim, you would think that the exposure would be somewhat limited, but doesn't turn out that way now, does it?
No, and I think we've all known of people that have suffered, from cocaine or heroin or some sort of serious drug addiction, and it just destroys them. It destroys their marriage. It destroys their life.
Let's call it from a federal prison.
Sometimes it destroys their life by killing them. And but I can't say that I've ever heard about that. About either a marijuana user or a marijuana dealer.
Yeah, I've been on both sides of that equation for about 30 some years now, and in all the people I've come upon, and certainly myself included, I've never seen anything like that. I've been married for 22 years. Have a good family. I've always been gainfully employed. A productive member of society, and nobody could call me lazy. So I don't. I'm not saying that everything's for everybody, but generally speaking, I haven't seen it as the scourge they try to paint it.
Well, like one thing I mentioned that I had some reservations about, maybe that explains why more people why too many people have reservations about marijuana, is when I first heard all the conversation about decriminalizing the mushrooms in Colorado, I thought, oh no, I mean, are they going to just kind of bunch that into marijuana? So if there's any problem with the mushrooms, they'll say that's also a problem with marijuana. That was my first reaction. That was my concerns about it. And hopefully, I think people can keep those two ideas separate, because I believe with the mushrooms, the concern is that some people get terribly paranoid when they take them, and it drives them to do some really crazy things where some of them get hurt. So you have to that is a potential side effect of that.
You mean like?
Say I've heard about marijuana smokers.
You mean like Prozac and Ambien?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just saying. I mean, people can take their concerns and their fears, and I can apply them directly to any number of legally prescribed medications that nobody has a problem with. So I think it has to do with responsible behavior and adults acting as adults can act. And I mean, you want to think about people being violent and aggressive and doing stupid things. Just go to your local bar at 2:00 in the morning. And my guess is you'll probably see plenty of that.
No, I agree. And I think the same goes for the mushrooms. I don't see somebody eating a magic shroom and going out and becoming violent. I mean, I haven't heard that that's a reaction from that.
I don't even think it's possible. I don't even think it's possible. When you do mushrooms, you become very floppy, very you're not going to go lifting weights when you're on mushrooms. I'm pretty sure you tend to be pretty relaxed and you tend to be pretty giggly. Things tend to be pretty groovy. And I don't have extensive experience with mushrooms, but I certainly have done mushrooms over the last 30 years, and I've never ever known or seen or heard of anybody that has gotten aggressive. I've seen people that have gotten paranoid, but people get paranoid after drinking too much coffee. So paranoid is sort of pretty generic term to wage fear, and it can be effective because people are afraid of paranoia for good reason. But it can happen all by itself without any help. But the violence is the thing that I'm always concerned about, and things like methamphetamine and this spice and all these crazy drugs that are out there right now, and alcohol, for God's sake. I mean, they bring out aggression and anger and fighting and road rage and all of these things on a regular basis. And that's the thing that I'm not saying that methamphetamine and spice are accepted in society, but they're not considered. We're not aggressively going after those things the way that so many people seem to go after some of these other things. Maybe it's because nobody's trying to legalize them. I'm not sure, but I don't see a concerted effort to get the speed out of America, and there's sure plenty of it out there.
And I think we've all heard of, people drinking alcohol and it gives them liquid courage.
Oh, yeah.
Every bar operator has seen their share of fights amongst drunk people. But let's face it, it's still a small percentage of people that even drink.
Sure.
And I'd have to say it's a way smaller part of people that smoke marijuana or eat shrooms.
Exactly. And the thing that gets me, and this is what really I always boil down to it, is I work in the world of science, and in the world of science, things have to be real and provable and repeatable. And people spout out these terms like paranoia and all of these things, but nobody is able to really cite these studies that show me some actual facts that can specifically point to a specific thing as a cause and a specific action that showed a victim and a serious problem. People just get to say anything now and paint with these broad strokes and demonize something without any real proof, without any real substance, and without something that you can show and show again.
Well, but what is it, 31 states now have some sort of either medical or recreational marijuana distributed?
Something like that, yeah.
And I mean, really, overall, there's been a really nominal amount of problems associated with this. People try to point out, well, there was a rise in, marijuana impaired drivers. Okay, but, even if that was true, because there's more people, maybe willing to buy marijuana since it's legal, you're still, it's a person making a choice that, to do something wrong. And then that's what we need to really go after. Is, the problem isn't the alcohol or the marijuana are wrong. It's the practice of the person driving after they use it.
Absolutely. Well, there's your first beep already, Craig, and I want to make sure you get to finish your thought before you get cut off.
Okay, but again, just like I was talking about hiding us behind the razor wire from, the people that are able to walk in the store, marijuana and all that. Thank you to everybody for remembering. Those of us behind the razor wire, remember that we're in prison for now when people, pay federal taxes. They're right on their W-2s, and their 1040s. So, please remember us in here and push your congressman. It's time to do away with marijuana prohibition. That horse is needs to be put back in the park.
I couldn't agree more, Craig. And as always, we're here for you. And I'm looking forward to the one day when you get your ass out and we get to go fishing. Well, folks, that was the most graceful ending we've had in a long time. Craig usually gets cut off in mid-sentence, and we were able to time it this time. He was able to finish his thought. So just remember, he's in federal prison. He's taking a risk by even talking to us. They don't allow what these are called a third-party call, where he's talking to me and I'm talking to all of you. And he faces sanctions. He faces solitary confinement over this, and he calls every week because it gives him a little teeny bit of freedom. It gives him an opportunity to voice his thoughts and opinions to a free world out here. And I just, want to remind everybody that this freedom that we have, it could disappear in seconds. I've had my freedom taken from me many times over this plant and without a victim, just like Craig. And fortunately, I was able to find my way to the other side of it without getting in a life sentence. But it doesn't always work out that way, and that's what we need to change. So let's go back to Amy and see what's going on, and we can begin now this conversation. Amy, welcome to the show again. I apologize. Well, I don't apologize. Craig Cecil is a good friend and a friend of the organization, and he's one of the reasons that we exist as an organization.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not a problem for me at all. Actually, was happy to hear you speak. So, I don't know if you get the opportunity to talk to Craig again. I would just like to make sure that you know that, we have not forgotten. We have definitely not forgotten. And a lot of people have not forgotten. Recently in Cincinnati, they're trying to pass a decriminalization similar to the one I did here in my town in Norwood. And that was actually brought up by numerous council members. Those things, exact things were spoken about. We have wealthy, dispensary owners that are selling legal marijuana, yet we have, people still doing life in jails and, people being locked up for just a joint. And there are a lot of comments, on social media when these things happen about, what are we going to do for the people that are sitting in jail? Unfortunately, everything is just one step at a time. I've always said that legalization is the beginning. There's so many things that, we have to keep fighting for. And, that's number one is getting these folks out of jail. It's just ridiculous, and it's just time.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And, we have a chapter of our organization, the Human Solution International in Ohio. And in fact, one of the chapter coordinators, I don't know if you've met him, but his name's Glenn Keeling, and his wife Peggy are currently not only advocating for others and supporting our POWs, but they're fighting an active case right now. And Glenn's on the line right now. I'm going to bring him up in a couple of minutes after we get a chance to talk a bit. But hopefully you guys will be able to connect and hopefully, we can find a way to work together. And Craig Cecil, just so you know, he is a regular on the show. He calls the show in every week, again, at his peril. And I've been doing this show or a version of it for almost 5 years now. And Craig has been calling in, religiously. And, it gives him an opportunity to get a message out. And sometimes when something goes horribly wrong in there, we've been able to issue a call to action and get some things done. There was a time when the prison dentist was more or less on strike and not working, and we've had issues where meds weren't being distributed correctly. Craig's a diabetic and needs a special diet and medicine. And he was denied that for a while. And we were able to take some grassroots effort and reach out to the warden and to the Bureau of Prisons and get some of that stuff turned around. So, when Bobby told me that you're doing grassroots work, that's, of course, when my arms go up and say, we need to work together. So tell me a little bit about the work that you've done. And, of course, it sounds like you're running for an office right now, and I'd like to hear about that as well.
Yes, I am. I started in activism probably like late 2012. I just set out to sign a medical marijuana petition that I heard about. But, here I am today. So it's been great. I've enjoyed every minute of the cannabis reform movement. As you had mentioned earlier, I've been active with pretty much all the statewide legalization efforts in Ohio. And then in Norwood here, we wrote the initiative. We refer to it as No Fines, No Time. It's titled the Norwood Cannabis Ordinance. And basically what that ordinance does is removes fines and jail time for cannabis possession of less than 200 grams. So in 2016, we tried to do this, and we were actually kept off the ballot by the Hamilton County Board of Elections. We did challenge through to the Supreme Court, and unfortunately we lost. So we brought it back out again this year, last year, 2018. Got the necessary signatures and got it on the ballot last year. And like you had mentioned, it passed by 73% of the vote. Unfortunately, it appears that our community is sidestepping the law, and the police are continuing to cite people under state code. And then they're just sending them down, to municipal court. Which is just crazy. So, in that time, I've spent a lot of time, like I said, out in the community, talking with residents. And I've also spent a lot of time at city council meetings, talking to city council, things such as that. And then, in doing all of that, I started taking notice of a lot of the problems that existed in our community here outside of Canada. And, got even more interested in local politics and in talking to the people in the community. They're frustrated, and they don't feel heard by our city government. So I decided that I wanted to do something to change that, and that's when I decided to run for city council. So I'm pretty excited about it. I've never... I've worked on a lot of campaigns, but never one for myself. As you mentioned, I'm very grassroots and I'm underemployed, so I'm doing the best that I can. But I'm well known in the community. That means a lot to me. So I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I can't thank you enough for having me on your show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And as I've always extended to any guest I have that has an ongoing effort or project that they're working on, I welcome you anytime to call in, even if you're not scheduled as a guest. If you have an update, once we've met and you've been featured on the show, I certainly welcome you to call in anytime that there's something that you want to bring attention to. But what I'd like to do is I want to put on Glenn Keeling, because he's another activist. His whole family are activists, and he's a board member of the Human Solution International and currently fighting a case in Ohio. So I'm going to bring him up so you guys can.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'm quite aware of Glenn and Peggy soon. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm going to bring him up real quick so that you guys can say hi. And Glenn, you're live on the air now. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe, thank you very much. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. When Bobby had told me about Amy, which was just yesterday, I didn't put two and two together that she was from Ohio. I don't think he even said where she was from, or she did. I just didn't hear. Anyways, so once I'm looking at this intro, I says, well, shoot, you guys hopefully are working together, and if not, you need to be. So I'm wondering, you two already know each other. I'm wondering, is there a way that we can combine efforts in some way?
Yeah, that would be an amazing thing to do. We're always welcome to work with anybody here in Ohio that's willing to, step up and do work with the Human Solution and go in the direction that we're going with. We have actually we weren't supposed to be there, but we're going to be there now we have an attorney conference next Friday. It would be really cool if you would bring a lot of people down with you and come and hang out in the auditorium with us.
Okay, attorney conference. Okay, yeah, I'll have to get you to send me the information on that.
So yeah.
It'd be great to personally meet you too. I know most of our relationship exists on social media, sharing posts and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, we definitely need to help you guys get some more, people in rooms.
Well, Amy, also, we do a leadership conference call on Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Pacific time. So that's 3:00 Eastern time. And if you are interested, I can have Glenn give you the call-in information if you have the time or ability to call in tomorrow. And a lot of times, Bobby's part of that call as well. And maybe we can find a way to coordinate our efforts and, find a way to benefit everybody connected. And most importantly, find a way to further this mission of ending prohibition.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and send that information to her, Joe, and so she can get on with that call. And,
yeah, that's fantastic.
Anything we can do to work together to bring Ohio back to where it's supposed to be, because looking at the program that's going out, it turns good people that's trying to follow the program. I mean, look at everything that we've done. I mean, the whole normal. I mean, you're aware of all of that. I mean, the hundreds of people that that are still going through something, even though that the program is where it is. The prices, the hoops you have to jump. I mean, yeah, it would absolutely be great to be able to work with somebody that's, going for a political office that is in the same mind that, people should not deserve, shouldn't be going to jail for a plant. That's all there is to it. It doesn't matter what the situation is. A plant is a plant.
Right, and that's where we're at right now in Ohio. We need more pro-cannabis candidates to run and to get in office so that we can start changing some of these laws from the inside. Because even like here in Norwood, Ohio revised code, and like you guys with your medical card, you have your card and you're still being charged with this. And Norwood sidestepping our law and fighting under state law. They do these things for us, for the people, but it doesn't work out for us, for the people. So it's truly a shame. And earlier, when the talk of the licensing fees and all these things that they're wanting in the state, and Ohio, I think, is probably the highest licensing fees in the nation. The cost of product, medication, the program was not written for the people that it's intended for. And, I'm a chronic pain patient myself, and, you and I and Peggy Sue and, Wendy and Lori and, all of us patients, we're the ones that are out there, fighting in the streets and doing the work to get these things to ballot. And, even with the laws, we're still the ones that are suffering. It's just really so inappropriate. Yeah, if you look at the whole program itself, it's an Ohio program, but there's nobody from Ohio is in the program. The only people that's in the program is absolute patient. Everything is, there's no money. The tax is the only thing that's staying here, but none of the revenue, none of everything else is going out of state, going back to Illinois, going back to Chicago, going back to New York. There's nothing staying here in Ohio. There's no Ohio companies in this entire program. It was not, you're absolutely right, it was not designed and meant for Ohio at all. This is not for patients. There's no way that the prices and everything is going to the licensing fees alone. We have hands down the worst program in the nation, and that's all there is to it. That's bad. And there's people that are Pennsylvania started 6 weeks after us. Their program was up and running
almost a full year before us, and they were serving almost 10,000 patients the day that our program opened. That's ridiculous.
Well, Oklahoma. I mean, my goodness, Oklahoma. You would not think that we would be light years behind them.
I do need to cut you off, but I don't need to. Tyler Donahoe, he's watching. He's right up there in your area, up there in Norwood area. I mean, he's another one that was following the law. I mean, perfect cases. You know, here in Ohio, people following the law, and we're made criminals. It needs to stop. It needs to stop here. And it's not just in Ohio, and it's not just with us. Craig Cecil needs to come out of jail for it. Lance Gore, Mr. Romans needs to come home. I mean, there's now 17,000 people right now here in Ohio on flight for cannabis. They need to come home. It's just far beyond time.
Yeah, you know, tons of people that are suffering over a plant that's never hurt anyone. It's just crazy.
Well, I don't mean to take that.
No problem at all. It's a conversation that needs to be had, and we need to continue it. And Glenn, first of all, do you have any updates on your case?
We do have the attorney conference on the 24th. It's at 3 p.m. 101 North Main Street, Salina, Ohio. Peggy's going to post the information about that. But that's the only update we have. Our attorneys called it with the judge. So, I mean, I'm hoping that is, you know, something after 19 months of being in the same position for, you know, being medical patients is absolutely ridiculous. So I'm hoping that this is finally coming to an end for us. And if not, I mean, we're going to still be here fighting, you know, along with our case and everybody else that's going on here. So listen, really quick, my name is Glenn Keeling. My wife is Peggy Kimmel. We're really easy to find on Facebook. Creative Care Beacon is what we run with the Ohio chapter of the Human Solution International. 419-863-0498 is my number. Please call if you need something.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Glenn. And look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Amy, you know, I'm assuming since you're doing grassroots work on your campaign, that you could probably use a hand or two as well. So how would somebody get a hold of you if they want to engage you in some of your efforts?
I have an email. I also have, you know, Facebook, of course. I'm happy to leave my phone number as well. So yeah, I'm definitely going to need some help.
Well, go ahead if you'd like to just go ahead and announce it on the air. This is this show is also archived, so people can go back and review it if they missed it, or if somebody contacts me and said, "Hey, how do I get a hold of that client?" If you've left it in the record of the archive, I just send them back to the recording. So why don't you go ahead and give us out any contact information that you'd want to be reached by.
Okay, perfect. My email account is all lowercase letters, and it's Amy, that's AMY, Sensible Norwood, so SENSIBLENORWOOD @gmail.com. And I can be reached by telephone at area code 513-344-6700.
Fantastic. Well, Amy, I appreciate you coming up.
I also do have...
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Keep going. You're good.
Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Go ahead.
We can be found on Facebook also at Sensible Norwood.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Well, again, I want to thank you for coming on the show and introducing yourself. And remember, we're on the air every week at the same time. So if you have an announcement or if you have something you'd like to share with this audience, you don't have to be featured as a guest. You just call in. And we have an amazing screener by the name of Mary. And she'll put you up in queue, and you'll be able to say your piece.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, Amy, thank you so much for being on the show, and hopefully we'll hear from you very soon.
will. Thank you. Have a great night.
Excellent. Amy Wolfenbarger, Sensible for Norwood candidate, and so much more. So if you guys are in that area of Ohio and you want to help somebody that can make a difference and get her in a position where she can have some influence over your local area, that's how to do it. So, all right. So we've got now Pete Yapel and then Tom Corby. The show is burned up most of its hour, and we're probably going to go a few minutes long like we do. And I've got also an announcement and a few parting things to say. So Pete Yapel, Solidarity Over Separation, chapter of The Human Solution in New York. How's it going today?
It's going good. We got a couple calls while we were listening on the way over. Unfortunately, it's one thing about living in the mountain, you kind of come in and out. But we taught our CBD class in Fort Jervis tonight, and that was good. It was we had a really interesting woman there for the first time from Europe in her mid-50s, and her husband. And it was really great to talk to them. So a couple new faces, but then again, the same ones, which is always great because we can keep enhancing their experience and teach them a little bit more each time they come. But that's pretty much it today. We've got a 4-day concert series. The series starts out here in Hudson Valley this weekend with Friday days, so we'll be covering that and out at that for 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's just a good another chance for us to network and set our table up and speak to people as they come by. It's always a good draw. We're the table there that really isn't selling anything. We're all we're doing is giving information. So people are taken back by that we're just donating our time to actually inform people and educate them rather than to try to steal from their pocketbook.
Yeah, people have gotten accustomed to everybody's got an angle. If you're talking to them, you're probably trying to profit or benefit from it in some way. And sometimes we're just out there to share a little of something we know and try to gather some steam for a good project and maybe just trying to make the world a little better. It's
That's
funny.
Right.
There's still people out there doing that if you're in the right place at the right time. So I very much appreciate you being one of them, and that's what this is all about. So Pete,
that's right.
as we're going along,
90 seconds.
as we're going along, say no. I'm just saying I'm running into more and more people from the East Coast, and it's interesting because in the 10 years we've been in operation, it's only been in the last couple of years that we've had much of an East Coast presence, and I'm just watching a lot of activity happen out there, and it's exciting. So how does somebody get a hold of you if they're in the New York area and they want to get involved?
Webpage www.canotalk.small.
Boy, we got that mountain connection. I got bits and pieces of that. So try saying that again. We'll get through this time.
Solid over 7. The Human Solution International's New York chapter. They can us through our webpage.
10 seconds.
Small.com, or they can be 845-522-3162. Like he says, if us, we can't help it. And even if you don't have a case to fight, we're here to educate. We're here to help you anyway. In case you ever end up in that situation, or in case you're called to a jury trial, you know your rights as a juror. People forget they have rights as even a juror, and we can educate them on that as well, so that when people do plant that's never hurt anyone, never killed anyone, there is no victim, so there is no crime. They can educate the decision when they're there to best judgment.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Pete, it's always a pleasure. It's been a privilege to work alongside you, and we'll be back at it tomorrow at noon. So we're just going to keep hammering away till we get her done. And you and your lovely wife are just warriors, and it's great to be working with you guys. All right, folks, Pete and Helen Yaples, Solidarity Over Separation, New York, just tearing it up out there, doing great work. All right, so I got Tom Corby up next to wrap up the show, but before, I'd like to mention a couple of things. Number one, the Human Solution was founded over 10 years ago out of the need to support people that were fighting court cases. And over the years across the country and in other countries, we have we've supported people. We've taken some lumps. We've had a lot of victories. We've watched people go in and come back out of prison. We've watched victories where people never had to get locked up. We've seen acquittals. We've seen hung juries. We've seen dismissals. We've seen a lot of stuff over the years. And one thing that recently I've noticed is that there aren't a lot of people standing up and fighting. And there are still plenty of cases. And those people, mostly that I've come upon anyways, that are standing up and fighting, are kind of doing one-man shows, social media campaigns. And I just want to say this. If you want to connect with an organization that knows what they're doing about rally and support and sitting in court and being effective, the Human Solution International is like no other. There is no other group that does anything like what we do when it comes to courtroom support for defendants. It just isn't out there. And I've been all over the country, and I've been part of many, many groups. And there's groups that have done some of this occasionally here and there, but it's a big part of what we've always done. So if you have a case, or if you know somebody who has one, have them reach out to us. THSINTL.org is the website. And, that's what this is all about, is educating and supporting. So the second thing is as we have continued along and we've grown as a 501c3, we've raised up in the standing. We're part of GuideStar and some of the other nonprofit directories. But we've got members that have been around for many, many years, some members as long as the organization. And just recently, we had one of our members by the name of Larry King, who had made a promise a long time ago, and he showed up at my house last week on Saturday, and he pulled out a check out of his pocket and he wrote it out. And it was for a pretty substantial amount. In fact, one of the largest donations we've ever gotten. And he said, "You guys you're still at it. You're doing it. I watched the work you've done." He's been part of it. He visited me in jail. He was there on the day that the court decided to dismiss my case after 6 years. Was there during the trial, and was there for many other people. Brought cases to this. Was a chapter coordinator for the Long Beach chapter for a while. And I told him when I saw this money, I said, this is powerful. We can do so much with it because we don't have a budget. We have a website that costs a little bit of money, and other than that, it doesn't cost that much to operate this organization. So I said, what we're going to do with it is we're going to use a lot of these funds for educational purposes. And one of the things that we've recently done, and I want to share this with you guys, is we published this packet. It's an informational packet. And the purpose of this particular packet is to present to the legislature in Kansas. And I'm going to be going out to Kansas one day, hopefully, before too long, and meeting with members of the legislature to inform them about addressing their fears about this plant and bringing some actual science to them. And so I just want to read the table of contents to this so that you understand the work that we've done. And this is well put together. It cites a lot of of studies, and it's really a scientific work. And the goal of this really not only is to affect change, but this can actually be cited as a public work, as an expert witness if need be, as it's now been published. So the table of contents includes this. Section 1 is research, and it talks about the National Center for Biotechnology, the endocannabinoid system of skin health and disease, the National Center for Biotechnology Information Scientific Report, common information, drugs.com, marijuana, its effects and medical uses. And then it gets into some of the other marijuana-derived compounds, such as durabinol, epidiolex, and marinol, and side effects from these synthetic versions of this. And it's got information out of WebMD and Time Magazine, and a letter from the director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse, the Federal Safe Banking Act, States Act, and Veterans Medical Marijuana Safe Harbor Act are all topics of discussion. And the purpose, again, of this is to open some eyes. And this was not a free endeavor. Nobody donated any of this as far as the printing and the creating of this. Our volunteers donated their time to assemble this, and we paid to have this printed, bound, and published. And that's some of the work that donations go towards. The next thing that we're going to be doing, and this is something that we've never really done much of or done very well, but we have created T-shirts and hats and things like that in the past with messages on it. But we're going to dedicate a budget to our messaging and swag type things. And the purpose of it is to bring awareness. I think if we have some good messages on some good looking shirts and T-shirts and coffee cups and bumper stickers and all of that, it opens up eyes, and it starts a conversation, just like our ribbon does. And so we're going to dedicate some funds to that as well. So we're looking for ideas, and if you're a creative type, go ahead onto the website, thsintl.org, and send us your ideas. We welcome it. All right, that's my announcement for today. We're going to have Tom Corby bring up the rest of the show, and let's see what Tom's got to say. Tom Corby, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I was good. Thank you. We'll right back there.
Got a terrible connection, Tom. Is there anything you... You're on, but I can hardly hear you. You're really... Barely.
How about now?
That's better.
Even now?
That's good.
All right. I'm down in the ship. I don't get real good.
No, we lost you.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
I had to adjust the phone.
Okay.
So again, I want to every week, Joe and Lisa, Becca, Mary, and always the coffee party radio show. Probably like we go. These again are great historical shows. I'm so glad to be a part of this International. By the way, I know last I heard we're pushing 50 chapters international. So the whole world's listening to us, and we're copying what we're doing a lot, and especially Northern California. We have an update on. We always talk about when you grow, have a doctor's recommendation. Well, we were able to use that until just recently. We can't use it anymore due to politics, especially here, why a lot of people are leaving California. It's so sad to see. Don't forget to breathe. Just got back from the DMV, and I got our handicap
black, which we hardly need. Thank Dr. Badgley.
Yeah.
He's right here in town now. Comes over. He's a really good doctor, and he'll take this stand for you. I still think that now that Kelly always talks about, no matter what other defense you bring, you always bring your doctor's recommendation to Dr. Phil. I still believe that. Dr. Donna said a long time ago, judges and DAs cannot play doctor. So I still think that folks should have the recommendation. And by the way, the recommendation really never expires. Although if you're going to go, it's better to keep it up to date so you don't have to go to a hearing just to get it accepted. So now that Prop 215 is pretty much null and void, thanks to all the money at the top cat on the hill, AOMA, and we always say legalization just more laws and regulations of school of mom and pop growers. It's so sad. Although I would like to say after 52 years, I never really thought I could grow a plant myself anyway without going up to 20 years, which I've had that too. My two cases were, both of my cases were dismissed due to coming from truth and justice always prevails, and we need to breathe. I want to thank everybody for all the support. Frank Canan, Nick Moran, Liz, Joy, my daughter Karina is here now helping Donna. Probably for Bob Jarrett's been here quite a bit helping us. Otherwise, I just don't know how we get through these health issues we're both going through, especially Donna, of course. She's actually improving a little every day. It's going to be a long road to hoe here. If she knows that, she's getting a lot of good therapy from people coming in from the hospital. And we just hope someday that she can get up out of bed and stand up and then at least get back in bed. That would be a huge step, and we feel she's really getting closer to that. And how we talk about cases, we know, Joe, when you go federal, you're pretty much screwed. It's a shame. They don't allow your defense in. And I want to bring up Richard Hemsley here. He's become part of our tight circle. We're so glad to have him. He might be listening today. He fought the feds, and he won down in Sacramento. Federal building, 501 I Street. We went for court support for him and wrote letters. Thank you, Dr. David Allen. Came so hard. It's a point to bring out folks so we do court support is generally just local court support with a 50-mile radius or so. It doesn't mean you can't come further, but most of the cases are continuations, as was. Excuse me. As was I was going to report on the radio show last week that medicine for military and James Benno had a hearing here last Friday, and again, they were just dismissed, and it's still going on. And finally, after you go on and on and on, it usually just goes away. We always bring our 995 dismiss motion, and that's what Richard did. He stood his ground federally. I was amazed how long that he was able to talk to that actual black judge. Good for him, because he actually listened, and he told Richard Hemsley, remember as we told you before, Richard wanted to go pro per, and the judge says you have to be qualified. So he had to go to 2 or 3 more hearings to finally go for and what did that? He stood his ground, took him to trial. We always do that. And all his discoveries, 995, dismissed probable cause motion. And again, like Joe's, in finally went away. He's still on probation. And of course, when you're on probation, you're not allowed to use the medicine. And that's sad to say, but you can't get a doctor's permit, personally, and we can fight that anyway. That's not going to. That's a dead lie. We all know that. Okay, I want to thank everybody all today coming together, volunteering to be this solution to find the end, prohibition, and free all our POWs. Craig Cecil. And no one should ever go to jail for our sacred plant. We know that they're all making money on us, from the border, the sheriffs, the cops, the robbers, the judges, the DAs, Big Farm. All of them were fighting a Goliath. But if we stand our ground, come from truth and justice, it will finally prevail. I hope it's in my lifetime. I really do. We never know on that. I feel we're getting closer every day, and we must keep standing our ground, writing letters, and giving our support wherever we can. So come join us. We give us solutioninternational.org and help be the solution. We may be the next one. Thank you all today again, and don't forget to breathe. I'm ready for Willie. Thank you, Joe. All
right, Tom. Always a pleasure, and my best to Frank and Donna and the rest of the crew out there. And thank you to Mary and Lisa and everybody else who participated today. And we will see you all next week.
I am Willie Nelson, and the Willie Nelson Teapot Party and I endorse the human solution, supporting cannabis prisoners because no one should go to jail for a plant. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind.